Good evening and welcome to AI at Work. This is brought to you by The Hindu in association with IBM. This is our second roundtable, and today's subject is AI for security and security for AI. I'm very happy to have all the participants of the roundtable here, and as a first move, I'll request the panelists to introduce themselves with their name and their role and their companies. Srinivas, can you go first?
Yeah, my name is Srinivas Pamanmukala. I'm CIO for Mahindra Logistics.
Thank you. Sanjeev?
Hi, I'm Sanjeev Jain, Chief IT from LIC of India.
Good evening all. I'm Dhiraj Kumar. I'm IT head of New Day Assurance Company.
Hello. Hi, I'm Hitesh Talreja, Chief Technology Officer, LIC Housing Finance.
Hi everyone, good evening. This is Geeta Gurnani from IBM. I'm the field CTO and I lead the technical sales team for India South Asia.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amol Deshpande. I am the Group Chief Digital Officer and Head of Innovation for RPG Group.
I'm Nagraj Nagabhushnam. I'm the Vice President of Data and Analytics for the Hindu Group and also the group's designated AI officer. I'm your host and moderator today.
Hello, I'm Ritwik Rath, Head of IS and ERP in Hindustan Petroleum.
Good evening, I am Sagar Karan, Associate Partner with IBM Cybersecurity Services.
Good evening, I'm Prashant, Thakkar, President, Retail Strategy, Operations and Technology for LIC Mutual Fund.
Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Just recently, I was talking to our group CTO, and in a casual conversation, we were just sharing a ride to the airport. I was asking him, what keeps you up at night? And his response was single word, security. That's what he said. And I kind of asked him to explain himself a little bit. And he said, Nagraj, earlier we were talking about risks and frameworks and assessments and evaluations and so on. Just the fact that we have something like a NIST framework and check it off. We'll do this on a yearly basis, once a year. I can't afford to do something like that now. I have to be on the NIST framework at all times, all the time, really. And I was asking him, so what changed? So he said, and I asked him, yeah, but that's been around since 2022 in its most common form now, the one that's viral today, common today. And he said, true, but you're only looking at the surface of it. What about all the things that come into our workflows? What about all the things that come in as sources for our journalists? How about all these things? All the objects that come in, what we believe, what is truth, what is fake, what is real, all of these questions come in, and it kind of becomes my responsibility if at some point in that whole process there is some artifact that says that the modification happened in my system, right? It made me think a lot more deeply about security, because we tend to think of security in a cyber security language. So we think about data, we think about storage, we think about networks, we think about transport. I also realized earlier this evening that some of us also think about physical security, because it's not, everybody doesn't have business in the cloud. And there is all sorts of security that we have to take care of. And I wanted to start this evening's panel with this thought, that security sometimes is just not the things that we think about in the formal sense. It could be outside of that formal sense as well. Having said that, while we think of AI as something to be secured and AI's operations to be secured, we also need to think about how we can use AI itself for making us more secure. And that's the first theme for this evening. And as a start, I'd like to ask Ritwik, which parts of your security operations are delivering the most value from AI today?
In your intro, you're talking about areas which are not necessarily cybersecurity. So, for us as an oil and gas company, the physical security as well as the cyber security are equally important. Okay, and I think in both these domains, AI has a critical role to play. So, we are spread across almost 400 locations in the country, and quite a few of them are very remote. And and if you look at the law of the land, the compliance there is very critical. And while the installations initially came up in remote areas, but then the population started building up around that as the development happened. So, this poses a great problem for us as far as the physical security is concerned in locations, and that's where it comes into play. We use a lot of video analytics combined with or IoT sensors to protect our perimeters. Another use case which is very interesting and possibly is not very common is the pipelines that we have a lot of cross country pipelines, okay, both from north to south, east to west, and there are a lot of activities which happens around the pipelines. Okay, and it's earlier we had a concept of something called pipeline tracker. Okay, so we used to employ people very specifically to, and they were given the distance. So I think it was around 20 kilometers, give or take a few, where and that is what they would cover either way. And then they will handshake and take the journey back to ensure that that segment was secure and nothing was wrong there, and there was no encroachment, no pilferage. So, and then what we did is we realized and we carried out a POC by using, say, with every line we lay fiber with every pipeline because of the SCADA requirements, and there we saw a potential to use the signals that are coming in from there along with AI. So, it took us quite some time. It's not an exact science that you would be able to segregate an animal getting on top of the pipeline than somebody trying to purposefully break into the pipeline or tap into that. So, it took us some time to shift the noise out of the data, but that's where AI helped us in building up confidence that okay, and slowly and steadily we have reduced the dependence on the workers, and so this is in the physical domain. Okay, coming to the cyber part of it, I think what AI helps us is first is the correlation. I think what you said, and rather the conversation you quoted, that gone are those days where we can say that okay, we'll have the seams of the world and we'll take the data in, collate them and understand what happened. So, nobody is interested in the security firmament about the description part of it. Okay, if it's happened, it's fait accompli. So, what you can do before it happens is more critical than what you are doing to contain it, and that's where AI comes in handy. So, the power that it provides to correlate incidents, look at patterns, also look at possibilities or the probabilities of something going wrong is huge. So, I'll stay with that for the moment.
Thank you. Sanjeev?
Yeah, good evening once again, everybody. So, like the first thing is that I could see that okay, there are 3 institutions related to LIC itself present here, and that's a very good gesture. Now, coming back to the question actually which you had asked, in BFSI particularly, the logical or the cyber security is more important, because anyway most of the time we are actually working in the systems only, like all our operations, rather than the physical, like for IoT, maybe for general insurance that is more appropriate, for life insurance in particular. We are more worried about the cyber security. And cyber security actually our focus is threefold. One is at the perimeter, how the perimeter is secured. Second is the infrastructure, and third is the applications, and maybe fourth is the endpoints as well, if we consider that. So all the things actually, all the 4 things we focus on, these all of four of them. At the perimeter anyway we have the SOC, SOAR, everything is there. For the application level, we have RPA also implemented, so that the fraud detection part particularly, that is very important for a BFSI, that ultimately users are actually now using AI for the fraud purposes as well. Like we say, adversarial AI, probably that is now going to be the most most challenging field which we need to take care of it. And of course, for the endpoints, EDR is there, so that can take care of it. For the infrastructure, again, AI is helping us to manage the infrastructure as well as to alert anything whichever is not happening for the log management. For those things we have implemented that part. Now coming back to your important part of the question, that which part is giving the most results actually, because everybody probably has done the same thing what actually I'm saying. Particularly I'm talking from the BFSI front, because that is what actually we work on. So what I feel is securing the perimeter, of course, is done thing which you need to do it. Like all your SOC has to have implementation for the all the alerts using AI. AI is anyway done thing for these things. The challenges which lie in the implementation is creating the models, because what happens that so many times false positive actually come, and then we unnecessarily spend more time in resolving those issues. Maybe nowadays agentic AI will help us, but probably that is just the starting point. We have not implemented that, and probably it may take a little bit more time to go into the agentic AI model, so that this positive, false positives, probably we need to work on that, because creating a model is very easy, but then looking into all these aspects, that okay, we should be able to get the alerts only when the incident actually is happening. So that becomes a challenge that probably we will be implementing more on the agentic AI front nowadays. That is what actually we have thought about it. But RPA is actually helping us a lot, because nowadays fraudsters have found new means like to defraud the organizations. And what I feel is probably maybe it is the Indian psyche, that if you do a fraud with the organization, people feel very happy. If you do a fraud with the individual, okay, they say no, this is not a right thing, but they sometimes boast of it. Okay, I did this with the organization, and then it is as if that it's a Veer-gatha for them, that I'm very happy to defraud a organization, a bank or a financial institution. Probably that is the psyche the people are having. So this part actually is very, I think, the focus area which we are dealing with right now, and this is helping us a lot. That okay, wherever, because the whole journey actually, the frauds can happen at the onboarding stage, as well as during the policy period and the claims as well. So all these three things actually we need to take care of it, that at any stage we should be able to catch the fraudsters. Because cyber front, of course, one more challenge which we have faced is probably the operational or the IT field. They feel that cyber security is part of CSD only, cyber security department. Okay, I'm supposed to develop or implement the solutions, but the cyber security will look into it. They don't feel that okay, cyber security is part of the DNA of the whole IT infrastructure itself. That is the biggest challenge which we are facing, that they feel that we are the speed breakers. The cyber security is always the speed breaker, but they forget that okay, creating a speed breaker is to make the organization move faster, not to retard it. So that is the challenge actually which we need to take care of it. And the second challenge which we are facing now is about the shadow AI also. I hope this is a challenge with everybody, particularly because that's a big challenge which we need to take care of it. That actually we are working on. Probably things will come where we are able to take care of the shadow AI. because that may create a danger. Like it's a cyber security risk for us, and it's a big risk, and probably it's very difficult to find out also. Like creating a traps for shadow AI is very dangerous, very difficult actually. That's what we are trying to find it out. But yes, our RPA is actually helping us the most in terms of the revenue, if you say.
Okay.
Yes.
When you were speaking about this, I just recalled a recent MIT Nanda report which got released in the last 1 month, which said that 95% of AI implementations, the enterprises haven't seen any value out of it. And as part of that report, it also said that shadow AI is one of the biggest contributors of people coming in and using AI as an individual tool, but not being entirely supportive of enterprise AI, so to speak. So it looks like as individuals, we are more ready to risk some stuff, do some stuff with AI, try to make tools out of it. But when it comes to us as I kind of found a parallel with what you said around, I'll feel very bad if I defrauded another person, but if I defrauded a company, which I don't see as a person, right? So I will do whatever I want. That leads me to my next question, which is actually around how do you balance AI-driven speed with the human oversight, particularly when it comes to incident response? Because AI is doing two things for us. One thing is it helps us detect quickly, but it is also the tool which the adversaries are using against us. So it's speed both ways, speed in attack and also speed in defense. And there is, in many of these incidents, there is need for some human judgment in place, and we need to kind of find a balance between this. Amol, you want to weigh in on this?
Sure. See, it's very interesting to hear the thoughts on AI. In my view, see, AI is unavoidable. We need to accept the fact that what it is there, it's unavoidable. From our group perspective, where we are involved into very diverse industries, we are in principle very bullish onto AI, because if that's the future, that's the organization needs to move forward, adopt it in every possible way. Like Ritwik said, whether it is about the people safety, whether it is the equipment safety,
Yeah.
I would take that to one stage beyond. It's also about the product safety. The product companies which are making products for customers, how they are safe and secure. And trust me, AI has unlocked a lot of opportunities at many levels. It's not only at a process level, not only at a systems level, but also in terms of people and equipment and product safety level, which we use in many of our businesses, which do. To your point, where you said that it is there, yeah, AI is everywhere, right? And few years back, there was a very interesting term which was making a lot of round, was BYOD, bring your own device.
Yes.
Right? You talked about shadow AI, sir. Now it's bring your own AI to work. Right? So it is more of a BYOA, bring your own AI. And fundamentally, it is to, in my view, it's attributed to two things. One is that at an enterprise level, can you offer a solution for the needs of that employee who otherwise is looking for that solution from somewhere else? If those solutions are made available, if the people are encouraged, the employees are encouraged to first learn, B, practice, and then implement with a very structured construct, then probably there is one way to say that, look, why I'm going outside when I have something internally, right? And I think that balance of judgment has evolved. When it comes to the incident response, see, incidents are of many types. When you talk about AI is everywhere and AI is every time. It's with everything what's happening, you are looking at it. The scenarios where we see AI getting deployed mostly in our businesses is in the area of deploying it for furthering the efficiencies of our business processes, furthering the decision making, leveraging the AI and data. I think I would put the RAG methodologies which comes into play, which controls what you are creating an output without actually getting. See, bias is nothing but a way of a security issue, right? Whatever the biases models bring into the data, whether it is at a demographic level, whether it is there, those bring in, and some of these help. We build a lot of solutions around that, whether it is our life sciences business or even our tire business, where we use this extensively. One needs to be mindful, and I think to your question, is human eliminated? Human is not eliminated. You definitely have a human in process. You look at solutions from a call center perspective, right? Call centers are probably doing some of the mundane activities or repetitive activities more efficiently. Has it evolved to a level of decision making? Not yet. You also talked about the agentic AI. Agentic AI is starting, but I think in a larger picture down the line, when it in time to come, we'll have to be careful about two things: what we are using AI for and how it has originated. Going to the roots and seeing what it is. It's very likely that you may not have a fully secure quote unquote product or the source, because the way things are expanding at a speed they are expanding, I don't think many people are doing the necessary security checks what they need to. So that framework is definitely required. Humans are required, but eventually we'll have to be more mindful in terms of what we build and how we build it. And I think that's more driven by the purpose for which you are building.
So your answer was interesting in the sense that we want to build the tools that people want to use the right way, and therefore less shadow AI, better and more enterprise tools. So the next question that I want to ask is, how are we then experimenting with agentic AI, and what kind of governance do you apply? Srinivas?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what we are doing in AI, right? So this came, I think, late 22, 23. Everybody started jumping and doing AI, right? I think what we started off with is we have to find use cases that make most value out of it, right? I mean, it's not like we just can't start what others are doing and getting in. I come from supply chain background. AM makes more logical sense, right? So in terms of because we provide services to diverse customers, right? Now, one of the biggest thing is how can you put customer in the center and create value for them? That's the most important thing. So we started off by saying we started off with creating first chatbots, right? With AI-powered chatbots, right? So when a person, we also, like Ritwik mentioned, we also have around 1,000 sites across India where we have warehouses, and we do transportation across pan-India with over 50,000 kilometers a year, right? We are one of the largest 3PL in the country. So we said, what is the use case for any of the person that it has to be simple, right? You ask a question, it should just summarize with the data, and then it has to give you an answer so that it'll help them make decisions faster. In supply chain, right, anything, if you order a package, if it takes 10 days, I mean, customers have less patience, right, and they expect the deliveries to come on time. So what we did was, we looked at that, and we also trained the models only to look at what is internal. So that we don't go out in the web. The models are trained in such a way that they only look at your internal data. That's where what happens is we have data sets where we can train the model, and the accuracy will be around 95-96%. So that's where we said, and to do this, the governance framework is very critical, right? So there are some NIST standards, but what we do is we first have AI governing principles that we have, a framework. Then we map what are the roles and responsibilities. Then what we do is we measure and manage. right? So it is just GMQ, if you would say, govern, map, measure, and manage, right? So that's a framework that we go with, and also agentic AI, like some of them, if you want multiple things to be done, right? Then if you want simultaneously some of the agent to, it has to be an uninterrupted AI where there is no human intervention. That's where you bring agentic AI, and then so each one does their own tasks, right? So like I said, it is still not mature yet. So we are trying with some pilots within the company. But that's what we predominantly do. So we are actually, what we are trying to do is in most of our products, which are like homegrown products that we cater to the customers, we started building AI chatbots first. And then, of course, there is some supply risk prediction. There are some models we can just build around LLMs or SLMs, where we can build and see. End of the day, it has to give value to the customer. And because it's not easy, it's time consuming to build a model, right? And we just have to make sure that it gives you the right ROI where you're putting most of your resources. And even the AI tokens, I think everybody talks about it, but there's a cost to it, right? Which is what you have to be cognizant about, because at what value, at what cost are you giving that service, right? Because customers are not going to pay for everything, right? I mean, in the sense, it has to create if they see the value, of course they will pay for the service, right? So that's where we started off with, we started small. So we are slowly, embarking on a journey now to actually scale that up to a stage where I think the end state is everything will be powered by AI itself. So that's where we are heading towards.
Sagar, you must be working with a lot of clients around this. What have been your observations and takeaways working with clients around agentic AI?
Right. Thank you for that question. And right from Ritwik to Sanjeev and Srinivas, what we've heard is how you're using AI in various domains of your organization, right? The primary question that most of our clients ask is, how can you reduce my mean time to detect and to remediate, right? While we looked at this question and we looked at our various processes, the entire kill chain, we looked at there was a break journey, right? And every time you have a tool in between, you would have a human being to interpret. One is to analyze and then take action. So with the most optimized operations that we would perform, and this is something that we've been doing for our clients since almost 2021, right? Using the agentic AI. We wanted to reduce this. So the answer that we came up with is we need multiple agents, right? Because it's not just one place that you would need to pull up information. Sanjeev, you rightly talked about the network, the endpoints, the servers, right? And then you also have your entire security tooling. And on an average, what we see is an enterprise has over 20 security tools, right? So when you take action, where all do you go and plug this? So a simple answer was ATOM, Autonomous Threat Operations Machine. So right from identifying your threat, where it is originating, to performing analysis, and then giving it a risk score, and then taking action. This is something that we are able to perform well within a couple of minutes. So this is something that we can share, and we'd love to hear from others as well. How do you really reduce your MTTR?
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to move on to the second theme of our evening, which is security for AI, protecting models, identities, and pipelines. We spoke a little bit about this in the introduction, so this is largely that we use AI for security in certain ways, but how do we secure AI itself? And the primary unit here is how we access and how we make sure that entitlements are correct and people have exactly the access to the right tools. And when they have access to the tools, what is the data that each of them can access and so on. So my first question in this theme is around how has your identity and access strategy evolved to address AI specific actors? Meaning, not just till now we were more focused on individuals' identities and so on, but with agentic AI, then we now have to look at the identities and access for each of the agents. We have to look at APIs. We have to look at overall, for want of a better word, I want to say AI actors. Prashant, would you like to weigh in on
Yeah,
it?
sure. Thanks. Good evening. So I think it's an interesting question. I think what is most important here, ideally what we have to look at is starting from basic in terms of, you know, how like you give the example of APIs and other thing. I think most important first is aligning to your privilege access and understanding, because that is where the biggest challenge lies. And if you talk about AI actors, the compromise and the first attempt is always the escalation privilege, privilege escalation. I'm sorry. So how do you bring and detect that? What is more important there primarily to look at is how do you align to your behavioral analytics there. Maybe you're working in a hybrid environment or cloud only environment. So how do you bring in that data, bring the correlation, and have those behavioral pattern already studied and defined, and that going into your model, which becomes then your primary source for you to identify and detect if there is any possible shift or anomaly in your behavioral. That is where the shift is happening. Now, of course, we are on one of the test stages of that. We have started doing the behavioral analysis even for our certain critical end systems like our dealers and investments, where there are certain activities which they are expected to perform as part of their routine activities. How do we train? How do we align to their overall behavioral pattern to that? And any shift in the pattern, how do you actually get that data? How do you feed and analyze for the possible, the risk parameter you want to identify it? It's not limited only to security, I would say, though of course we are focusing on security, but it also bring in a few other aspects, like when we're talking about the GRCs or surveillance and everything. That is how, I mean, if you ask me, I would like to look at.
Dhiraj,
So,
would you like to weigh in on this, please? I'll just provide the context again, which is we are talking largely about IAM, but we are also saying that IAM is not just for individuals anymore. It could be AI agents, other AI actors, other identities, other forms of identities as well.
So yeah, so for security for AI, that is a very important topic. I mean, talking about my company, New Assurance, we are sitting on a huge set of data. So for that, it's a big thing. Not talking about my company, the whole general insurance industry, talking about that, a huge set of data, their personal data, banks data, and all this. So I just look at that way, that the data and the models we are building on that, and the references or deliverables of that one. That's very important here. So a huge risk is there. We have a data poisoning also as a big thing there. We have a prompt injections and all those things, which can just very well, deviate the whole purpose of your whole setup. So, so IAM is very important here. I mean, although we are not using it right now, but going forward, the identity management, how to you are exploring or just exposing your models or the AIs to the external sources is very important here. And since we are working on an internal data set, so for us right now, we are just in all the governance and all that. But still, we have a very good use cases also. We are doing a lot of fraud monitoring for our claim setups, and we have a automated claim for motor and all that. That's all AI based and everything. So a lot of third-party integrations are there. So yeah, that kind of governance is very much needed there, and we're working.
Thank you. When we speak about identity, generally, especially for individuals, we also immediately follow it up with ownership. You generally need identity to kind of establish ownership in one way or the other. And so that leads to my next question around who in your leadership team is ultimately owning AI security? Is it a single individual? Is it shared? Do you have a structure for it? And I'd like Srinivas to weigh in, please.
Yeah, so AI is like, it affects the entire organization. I think the fundamental relies with the CTO or the CIO. He has a primary responsibility because that's where we provide a lot of insights of what are the pros and cons of implementing an AI thing. But I think the team itself, it cannot be one person managing it. I think it's a group of individuals that should be managing and governing the principle, right? And most of it also, you have to start educating the organization on the pros and cons of AI, right? If you just implement in silos, then it'll have repercussions, right? I think it is not an individual person, right? It's a group of individuals. Eventually, the entire organization has to know about what AI is and how you can use AI across the organization. It cannot be an IT driven, I would say, right? If you have talent across the company, I think we should probably bring those people also along with you so that, then everybody can think in the same line, right? But there'll be one person, just like you have anybody, somebody has to govern. The governing framework still has to be with some person that understands AI, right?
Yeah. Please. Sure. So I think it's a very important thing to understand that how the AI is touching the lives of the organization. Now, what has happened is, there has been numerous journeys. Some people have started with the chatbots or the relatively simple use cases. I think there is also a chance, which is evident in that study where 95% of the AI is not able to give the ROI. I think one of the reasons is that people are seeing AI initially only as an extension of what we were doing now. Okay, this is how AI can do it better. The thought process is now moving that, can we change that orbit itself? Can we start looking at, okay, what AI can do which the humans were not able to do, or can I eliminate certain human elements, certain processes? Now, when you start doing that, then definitely what happens is, this is definitely will come more from a business point of view. And when the business starts pushing for those AIs, then they would like to become the champion of AI. With that, I must say, we've been saying that, once you start doing it, you have to start owning it. So that's where I would like to come that, when you say, okay, AI, everyone wants it, but who would like to own it? Who would like to have the guardrails or create a governance framework? Then there has to be someone who can create that framework. So as someone said, that somebody has to own that framework. But whether the AI can be secured only by one person or one team, I don't think so. It has to go into the DNA of the organization entirely. Everyone has to understand what I can do with AI, what I should not be doing. A very simple example, people have to prepare summaries of reports and all. They can just go to the ChatGPT and do it. You restrict it on your devices. People have mobiles. And same thing can be done. So how long are you going to, or up to what extent are you going to secure? Until unless they have been told that this is doable, this is not doable. People talk about secure by design. I think AI has to be secure by the way you start using it. Until unless you do it, I don't think so there is any way forward. But yeah, I understand. Somebody will have to, you'll have to, bell someone. You'll have to catch some neck. So I think organizations are devising their own ways. Maybe the CTO somewhere, the CISO somewhere, they have a separate strategic departments for the AI. I think some people have started doing that. AI becomes a separate, a function unit between them, who prepares the guardrails, who start looking into it, who can, create the framework, and who can just pinch it out that, okay, this is doable or not doable. and it has to flow from the top. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wanted to add a little bit because my interaction with a lot of clients, what I've started seeing is now a new emergence of responsible AI officers, okay, and responsible AI heads in the organization. And this is also at IBM that we also, because we also produce products, we also do services, and we also serve our clients. So we also have our own responsible AI head. And I think I still remember like 3 years before when it started as a responsible AI, I still wear this badge every time I go out. Is that when I see you down, everybody was talking about that. And IBM also has an ethics board which needs to approve if you are sourcing data from anywhere and how you are producing the use cases. So initially it was like a bit of a shock for all of us that even when we were creating proposal for our clients, when I produced my first proposal, one of my legal team said, did you got approval from ethics board? I said, what ethics board? I really don't know what ethics board you're talking about. But I think, as you all said, I think if you put some frameworks and some governing bodies around it, I think it starts to flow. But it is the responsibility, I think, of every single individual who's a user or a producer, let's say, of that particular tool, use case, whatever we call. But I must say that it is becoming extremely real now. That how we are seeing the ethics and ethics board getting formed, responsible AI offices getting formed with our lot of clients.
Siddharth, you joined us a little late. I just gave you some time to settle down and get used to the dynamic of this. Please introduce yourself, your full name, your role and your company, and then please weigh in on the question that we had, which is the ownership for responsibility and AI.
Sure, so I'm Siddharth Sureka. I am the Chief AI Officer at Motilal Oswal. Like you rightly called out, right, Geeta, we have to think ownership from a perspective of, I think it's who is building it, who is managing it, but then there has to be accountable people across the organization who lends itself from a data provenance perspective and the model provenance perspective. Those are both very important. I don't know if any of you have heard the story of the CAPTCHA which happened through AI, but a task was given to AI which said, you have to go and crack this CAPTCHA. That's what it was, right? And because AI cannot really unpack how the CAPTCHA is, it actually went to TaskRabbit, which is a gig worker.
Like the Mechanical Turk.
Like Mechanical Turk. But it's like a gig place where you can delegate some work for small amounts. So AI went to TaskRabbit, said, I have a task, I need somebody to help me crack this. And somebody picked up that job for it's very $2-3, right? It's very cheap that way. And the guy asked back, why are you asking me for cracking the CAPTCHA? And the AI replied back saying, because I'm blind. Now it's very, if you think about it, like the AI went above and beyond to accomplish the objective, and how do we secure ourselves in this kind of environment becomes very, very, very important. And that's why this dialogue is such a key thing, right? So answering back in terms of where do we stand, I think that's why we have framed up an organization around AI so that we can think broadly about how do we think about guardrails for the organization, how do we think about governance for the organization, what kind of models we can use, what kind of models we cannot use, what kind of data we can use, what kind of data we cannot use. So it's a part of the larger organization, but we also have a CISO, the CTO, and the CIO who makes broader frameworks along with the CIO across the organization.
So, Ramesh, please introduce yourself and then.
Hi everyone. Myself Ramesh Gurram. I am CISO of Bombay Stock Exchange. I head cyber security and information security function in my organization. So regarding the AI part, we have initiated our journey. In fact, we started adopting AI in a phased manner, cautiously with the step-by-step approach. So as I speak, we have means we are using AI in some of the application which is purely internet based, without touching our internal data and internal systems, some kind of compliances during IPO, all that. And also we have initiated creating AI policy. To embark this journey, we are in a plan to first orienting all the employees to this technology. They should know what is the basic things. At times, if we give simply a product or a service that may not be used in a right way, are the words like responsible use and ethical use, all that, right? So our approach is just to orient the employees to that technology, and then creating a governance around it with a relevant applicable AI policy, and then collecting and orienting the leadership to how to bring right use cases to start with, and bring value to the organization, ensuring customer experience and customer delight. These are the means backdrop use cases we have finalized. And also we have means some of the use cases for cybersecurity operations center. We have started, in fact, I am in touch with IBM team, and of course many other players also we are working with. So the current status as I speak, yes, we are embarking this journey with a proper planning roadmap, with governance and proper security controls and guardrails to ensure organizations data is secure and private. So yeah.
Thank you. Geeta, you've been working with a fair number of clients around this area, particularly around governance. Your thoughts, please.
Sure, and as I said, I'll be like very honest with all of you that 12 months before, if I was going to any client and I was talking about governance, then I think I was literally pushed back, saying that what governance? There's no governance. We're just starting. We are in the innovation phase, and let every department do their own innovation. And I still remember one of the very big clients told me that, yeah, we want to make people thrive innovations. I don't want to stop anybody right now and put any governance. We'll manage and we'll see later on and we'll do it in Excel sheets. But I think come 12 months now, if I fast forward, it has taken a center stage because what everybody realized that the experimentation was fine without governance, but there is a lot of fear if you want to go completely production and start to have your business depend on AI. And hence now people are saying that, and our clients are having those inquiries, and probably this forum is also one of the things that we have so many esteemed leaders who are talking about this topic now, right? Saying that governance and security is becoming important. So I think as a company, when we are working with our clients, I think our endeavor is towards providing that how much we can automate this governance, because it's a very vast area, right? Governing so many technologies, because I think the Gartner statistics says that every 2.5 days there is a new LLM or foundation model comes, and people are continuously experimenting given the cost pressure, saying that which is the cheapest model I can use, where is my biggest ROI. So I think what we are working with clients to say that how about putting a automate tooling around this governance so that you can freely scale, okay, and you can freely use every single innovation what you're talking about. And that governance little gets extended, Nagaraj, that it is one is governing the models, right? What we're talking about, governing the use cases, what
Yeah.
we're talking about. But then is also how will I now manage risk associated with the when I start using it, right? There is a time when we say, okay, in financial sector, a lot of decisions, let's say you can audit back, right? Now, if my agents are taking decisions, how will I audit it back? Right? So what kind of a risk am I carrying? Can I just trace back that how the decision was taken? So that's a risk element which starts to come along with governance and final compliance,
Yeah.
right? Now we will start to see RBI coming up with initial draft of compliances, IRDI talking about, SEBI is talking about. So I think country as a whole is gearing up towards that. But I would say that if we start to embrace governance, as Ramesh said and as Siddharth also said, I think it will help us to scale better and with more confidence. That business can just say that, yeah, now I'm confident and I'm not constantly thinking about risk. Saying that if I bring this in core business, am I risking everything because these are not governed
Yeah.
use cases?
Um, Earlier this evening, when we were just catching up before the roundtable started, I saw 2 or 3 startling pieces of statistics that you gave me.
Yes.
Would you like to share it?
Yes, I will. So I was chatting with Nagaraj and we were talking about what does like security teams really worried about? Like what is driving that so much of challenges with security teams? And I told him that in our different conversations, what we saw is that there are 3 themes which are emerging, and those themes in little bit priority is what we've started to see. So first is that most organizations are now hybrid cloud in nature. Something on premise, something on a cloud, and not on a single cloud, multi-cloud, right? So how would you look into the data security across these different clouds or on premise? That's a one core conversation we're having with many clients. The second theme, and the data says that 80% of the data breach happens on shadow IT or on cloud because that's the core. The second statistics is AI, right? Because as you said, you're starting to use enterprise data to start training those models, and we all know that in the public domain, it's just 1% of enterprise data. 99% is all public data on which these models are trained. But that doesn't serve our purpose. So we start to use our own data to start training. So that's a second concern from a security standpoint, saying that how secure is my AI? And I think our current survey says that 24% are roughly starting to look being governed across the globe, whether in pilot phase or the production phase, what we're talking about.
So I was actually startled by that number, and I just want to take a quick poll on. Do you think the 24% number is high? As in, you are surprised it's as high as 24%? I was actually very surprised that it was as high as 24%, because I thought far less of generative AI use would be governed right now because of shadow AI.
Yeah, that's that. And the third one, which is now an extensive interest area, but not the maturity, is the quantum. Right? Saying that is my data quantum safe, or how quickly can this become vulnerable? And I think I was meeting somebody in Air Force earlier this week. I had an opportunity to meet some senior officers at Air Force, and they were talking about that. Uh, they won't be surprised if the tech war literally starts. The data is so poor for every country now that it's a very crucial. So I think quantum is a third subject. So I will summarize, which is hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, AI, and quantum. I think these 3 things are very active conversation with many clients now. That do we have tooling? Do we have things available so that I may not want to do quantum safe for everything in my organization, but I want to do with let's say super sensitive data. What I have, let's say in your case, Amol, the health sciences. That's your very sensitive data which you want to protect.
Thank you. That leads me to the final theme for this evening, and we'll do a quick round of questions and then we'll wrap it up. Um, what are the new risk scenarios that you are actively preparing for as AI adoption accelerates? Ritwik?
The first thing is, I think AI is also accelerating the bad actors.
Right. Yes.
And that puts that much more stress on the governing organizations. The second thing is the talent that we have in organizations also needs to be scaled upwards very significantly, because people have been very traditional with the technology for a long number of years, and till the compute, storage and network started getting affordable, I think this was in the realm of certain experimentation and in very niche areas. But suddenly when there was an explosion of AI, not only in the public space but also in the enterprise one, there is a lot of catching up to do. This a challenge which I typically see is getting this message across to the people who actually, and I was just jotting down, I don't remember, I'm sorry who said that. Most of the people use it, some build and a few manage. Okay, so when it comes to the third set of people, it is a humongous task. So, but it has to be managed at 3 levels is what I feel. Okay, so it has to start at the top where the executive has to be in sync. You have to have certain policies which are standards based, not on gut and experience. I think a lot of us draw out policies like that, but thankfully the standards around AI, which has come in very fast as compared to certain other standards. Adoption of that is very critical. At the middle layer, I think there has to be zero trust, right from ingestion to inference. There has to be a zero trust around the way the data is flowing, it's being processed and synthesized and then getting delivered. Now the delivery piece also is equally critical, because we also need to ensure that which are the hands that it is falling into. So in fact, a few days back we were discussing that we're churning out so much of insight, and where is the protection for that? Whether it is reaching the right audience or it's available to all and sundry is something which is another concern which people in my role and my governance team is facing. The last part is, I think, security into the AI which we are ingesting is fine consciously into the organization, but one challenge which we foresee is the cost solutions that are coming in. Who governs that? There is because recently, especially sometime in May, June and all, we are seeing a lot of data which flows out of, I won't name the product, but lot of devices that we very commonly use. Okay, and contrary to our perception of those devices being the most secure, we saw a lot of data getting out of that. So there is very little validation, because when we are saying there is so much of convergence of devices, so you're putting a lot of enterprise content on handhelds and mobiles. Okay, and there are third party applications which are sitting there, and we really do not containerize everything, because those are private devices. Okay, and that's where we see another risk, where there are potential threats which are there to leverage the data which is actually going there. So these are certain areas where there's a lot of catching up. I don't have an answer as yet, okay, but we're still trying to figure it out.
Prashant?
Yeah, I think I will agree to that. And primarily what we need to look at is how is your data federated at the training level, and that becomes very important. And again, coming down to when we talk about the shadow IT, I think DevSecOps is something which needs to be focused with a great extent, especially from this point of view. Right from, I mean, even our dev guys can be still using the AI to get some codes. How vetted they are? How do you rely? How do you build the guardrails on they getting the scores, and if those scores are not already injected or poisoned? So all that becomes very important to factor, and those itself are becoming the new risk elements when you are building the AI. At the foundation layer, like we said, DevSecOps is equally important to bring in. The guardrails also should be coming at the start of the building stage only, right from maybe you're talking about the federated training data, or maybe possibly preventing from poisoning of the training data and things like that. So it all boils down to that. So back to basics, your foundation layer has to be security first approach. That's how you'll be able to factor in the risk elements around that.
I think one area which, when we talk about the risk, we have to start looking into it, okay, secure by design, as we used to say. The AI has to be, now let us stop talking about that, okay, let us start experimenting it, because, the more we are experimenting it, the only thing we are falling short is in terms of the ROIs, and, we are making it lesser and lesser secure. So until unless these experimentation moves to the production scale, and then you can look into it, okay, now when my use cases are on production, they have to be secure. We must ensure that, the kind of LLMs which are coming up, are the LLMs are only providing me the value of scaling in terms of the cost, or are they also ensuring and giving me some kind of a commitment that, okay, your data is secure. When everyone is preparing a guardrails, there has to be a commitment coming from the other side also. Okay, when we are giving you an LLM, when we are giving you an experimentation, we are securing it by design. We are ensuring that, your data will not be misused, or, will not be put into any kind of threat. I think unless that comes, it will be very difficult. Second thing is, of course, there will always be a risk in terms of the internal use cases, because we say, the employees or the internal users are the biggest risk. That's where I think the AI can definitely help in terms of identifying those behavioral analysis, where, what kind of users are using what AI for they are using the AI. And that behavioral, if we can start, mapping it with the kind of use cases which we need, or what are we taking an output from, I think that will be one, area which I would like to, look into it. Yeah, that's sure.
So Amol, when we caught up just before the event, we were speaking about agentic AI and the very specific impacts that could have on GRC, and how, just like we did this AI for security and security for AI, you could pretty much flip it into AI for GRC and GRC for AI kind of thing, right? Your thoughts, please.
Sure. See, GRC evolved in the days of mainstream IT, when you were trying to automate a lot of enterprise processes. And it started with people. As long as you had tagged an individual, your entire GRC framework would kind of evolve around that individual, probably in more extensive way about that role, that what that role is authorized and not authorized and what not, whether it is about data access or actions. When AI comes into the place, we all need to be mindful that there is a lot of hype around AI. The reality of the AI outputs is very different than what it is perceived. There is a lot of way to interest people into AI, but for any enterprise, it is a very important exercise that where I want to use AI, where it makes a difference. Am I using for productivity perspective? Am I using it for the process efficiency perspective? Or am I using for my overall game-changing strategy, which I want to build solutions, build new revenue streams using AI? I'll answer your question in two parts, or rather two levels, if you will. The GRC in the AI space is for everything. It's not for individual, it's not for data, but probably tomorrow the agents also, right? So if I had to foresee, kind of take a peek into the future, like you will have good agents, you will have bad agents, right? And then there would be naturally a fleet of guardian agents which you will need, right? We heard earlier today that you build small agents which will do multiple things, and then they will rapidly, kind of automate things and otherwise. Now, how do you know that, in a very futuristic way, which may not be far, that one of those agents doesn't go rogue, right? So you need to be very cautious that how much evolution you are going with when you are taking agentic AI approach. Starting from RPA, we heard earlier that RPA is doing, so RPA AI can bring in a lot more flavor to RPA. Do we get to the level of autonomy is really a question. I may build an agent to take a particular task. See, often we hear about a scenario that agents can do a lot of things, as simple as invoice processing. It may do all the validations, but there is still that element that do I really want to make this payment or not, right? There may be 10 other factors which are outside the knowledge, standard scenarios. There might be a lot of things in everyday business, lot of scenarios happen and develop on real-time basis where you do certain things or you don't do certain things in a way you had been doing it for continued basis. So GRC gets into all these aspects. It is becoming a part of everything what you do when you are deploying technology, right? It's not a very constrained one thing. Purely from a how to approach perspective and what method steps we had taken around it. So it is about people, process and equipment, right? So we have friends from BFSI industry. You don't have to deal as much with the physical equipment and the people aspect on the working in very different conditions, but that's very important. So when you apply for it, how do you build a technology framework is something which everybody pays a lot of attention. We heard also earlier that there is, how do you take experiments to production if they are successful, right? So we went through our learnings through this, and we developed few things, and I'm happy to share this with you. See, we focused on 3 things: creating an enterprise-wide infrastructure which is curated for doing AI experimentation and which can be scaled, right? So you know what's getting in. In the beginning of this session, we talked about, bring your own AI or a shadow AI kind of a thing. Doing a self-analysis, see, you cannot always compete with make yourself when something is available off the shelf. So at least as a good Samritan, you can do that. This is better than this, and this can be deployed for this purpose in this context. So we implemented those kind of frameworks which helped us penetrate the overall Gen AI footprint across the organization. The very famous and popular technique which is there, we talked mostly from the network point of view and hardware point of view, but from an application point of view, there is a VAPT, the very popular terminology, right? You cannot do a VAPT for a AI solution because there are so many unknowns which are there. So you need to validate certain things. You did mention, Geeta, about the regulatory part of it. So regulations is going to drive a significant portion of what you apply your controls and governance framework upon.
Yeah.
What works for a manufacturing industry may not work for BFSI, may not work for, rather it will not work for healthcare, life sciences kind of industries. So those are very subjective to what you are doing, what business you are into, and how you apply for it. In my view, GRC applies to 3 levels: assets, bots, and people and agents, right? And people who manage those agents essentially. Last but not least is training the people on this framework. So we had developed an AI framework which talks about what tech stacks you typically use, where you relatively have a higher trust quotient. It's very interesting to see, Hitesh was mentioning that if somebody says that if you come across some solutions where you have an assurance that your data will not be used in different purposes, or even as basic as retraining and fine tuning and all of it, you suddenly see performance shifts in those scenarios. What works very well in one scenario, it doesn't work necessarily into it. So it's a balancing act. What we are doing is we are created an AI policy. We have brought in some of the elements which are to do with safe take or relatively trusted take to use, what kind of frameworks you use, the elements which you use from protection and scale perspective, and if those are done at an experimentation level, if you provide that secure environment, in some terms it's not 100% secure, but in a way where the enough guardrails are put in, then the scaling, you're fairly aware what you are dealing with, right? And of course, it's an evolving stage. Every 2 days, the new LLM comes, and I think that's going to be the way of life for until it kind of settles in. We are more focused and looking at having some special purpose LLMs which are relevant for our line of business, because taking a general purpose solution and applying it for a special purpose requirement does not necessarily fit in well. Two other things is we are not seeing so much of it, but I'm sure we will see more of it in very short span of time, is synthetic data coming in.
That's already a big problem, actually.
Right? So we didn't talk about it, but there is a synthetic data. Now, how that synthetic data is getting generated,
Yeah.
right? What are the things which are coming from it? And if you are using those, you know, it's like that missing links in a DNA, if you are trying to fill with this, you are looking at completely altogether different challenges. So, in nutshell, if we are dealing with so many scenarios, people need to be trained. So we have started some very structured initiatives where we teach, coach, make people aware about these scenarios, what's happening. Awareness is the first level. We run it through our digital academy. We train people about what's happening, give them experience onto it so that at least they are aware when they are dealing with it, whether they are dealing with their own experiences or in an enterprise experience, they are aware of what it is. And I think that awareness is that larger piece in any GRC framework in an enterprise space.
Thank you. That brings this to a wrap. I just have one request for all the panelists, starting with Srinivas. Let's go this way. If you had to prioritize one leadership action within the next 12 months that you want to do, one action, what would it be?
I think I will prepare the organization how to use AI, the entire organization.
Sanjeev.
I think one of the things which Gita had said was automating the governance, because like Amol also said that governance is going to be a big issue. Not the GRC part, the governance of the AI itself, AI ecosystem itself. Because how do you manage the governance? Because whether it is behaving properly or not, whether it is being used properly or not, that is going to be a big challenge. Because what I feel is probably in the just to zeal to that, okay, AI is there, we try to sometimes implement it. Okay, that okay, everything will be done by AI. And the top management also is very happy that, okay, why don't you use AI just for everything? But again, like everybody had said, that the guardrails have to be put in place. And the governance architecture is very important. So probably we'll be looking at automating the governance architecture for us.
Yeah. So being a part of BFSI, we just work in a very tight regulatory framework. So governance is paramount importance. As a leader, what I will just look forward within 12 months is that get my people ready and get my the whole setup ready, and with the AI ready people, you can say that. So pros and cons, do and don'ts. So that information still very limited to a certain set of people in any organization. So since we are integrated with a lot of third-party integration, other things, so almost all people are using AI in some of the capacity. So that kind of knowledge sharing is very important. So just get them AI ready.
Thank you. Hitesh?
Training of the people is, of course, is high on priority, but since that has already been spoken, I would say,
this is
yeah,
your priority. If it's your priority, you
yeah.
should say
But
so.
I would say, I would like to add to that, training not only the people, but even the leadership needs to be made aware that, let us not look for ROI at the start of it. Eventually, it has to come, because nobody is going to just shell out the money for nothing, but not at the start. And let us start on this, because one area which everyone talks about is the security. So I think the cyber security, AI security is one area which I would like to give an importance to it. So the training of the people, leadership, and then of course cyber security. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say that I want to help all my clients here to govern better and then go full hog productionize and leverage the AI benefits. So that's the number one goal we are driving. And internally also we drove that, and I think it works. That is that I can tell.
And hopefully it works with
Yes.
Amol?
Yes.
You asked one-liner, so I would say encourage, facilitate, promote innovation with AI, but with a reality check.
Yeah.
It's a tough ask, like you said. If I can quote, "Hazaron ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले." Okay, but if you ask me, I think bring a focus on what we need to do, and second is educate, right at every level.
Thank you. Sagar?
Again, it's a choice of plenty. So I would say protect your mud, and M stands for model, U for use case, and D for data on your infrastructure.
No, I think I would still say the training and awareness, and maybe possibly take it to maybe one level up. Try and create champions, AI champions in every department, every function, who are your extended arm to be able to hold the fort for you at every function and every role.
I think the training has been a very consistent theme, and that is true because we want to bring everybody up to speed. One thing I do try to educate my organization is, like, we are very wary of Fin influencers. We have to be also very wary of AI influencers, so to say, right? Because there are more myths around what it can do and what it cannot, and how do we educate ourselves so that we use it more properly. Otherwise, there are scenarios where it can take you in different directions. So education with proper usage.
Yeah, for us, the theme itself, AI for security and security for AI. This is the plan for coming year, and we are already on it. And for cybersecurity leaders, especially CISOs and all, any technology is like one more threat vector, right? So yesterday, cloud, mobile, after that now it's AI, tomorrow quantum, technology keep evolving, keep coming, and the success of any cybersecurity leader's strategy or I would say existence is like means how better we are bringing that encouragement and innovation into the organization for achieving the business objectives and without compromising innovation and customer delight. So that's the plan for us, AI for security and security for AI. It's all.
Thank you so much. And that brings us to the conclusion of this roundtable. I'd like to thank all our panelists for making the time today. It's braving some bad weather and even worse traffic to have actually made it here. We know that we got delayed a little bit, but I'm very glad that we could spend quality time. And I hope this was as interesting for each of you as it was for me. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.